Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. My name is Ellie Tahmaseb. I am a public affairs specialist with the communications department here at the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. We are going to be showing a short film here presently. My colleague, Roshan Patel, who is the filmmaker, is unfortunately not able to be here today, so I am here with you all. But I have roped in my colleague, Brooke McDonough, who is an incredibly talented conservation storyteller, to join me up here afterwards for the Q&A. All right. I'm never getting that crowd. Thank you. So at first glance, science and storytelling may appear to be strange bedfellows. But when combined, the two become a powerful tool to galvanize public action and ignite lasting change. Anyone here who is inspired to pursue a career in conservation by the likes of Jane Goodall, Steve Irwin, or Jack Hanna know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, when facing a rapidly changing climate and a global biodiversity crisis, science cannot happen in a vacuum. Storytelling is critical to sound the alarm and rally the troops. But storytelling also gives us another advantage. It helps us inform and also inspire. It helps us bridge the divide between rural and urban, domestic and global, human and animal. And I am sure we can all agree that we need to bridge those divides now more than ever. Stories are amplifiers, helping our audiences to expand their horizons, escape the echo chamber, and build empathy. In The Return of the Nóouhàh-Toka'na, or for English speakers, Swift Fox, you will meet the Aani and Nakota tribes of the Fort Belknap Indian community in north-central Montana. You will see that it is this community who is leading the charge in restoring the prairie ecosystem on their tribal lands. And you will see how Smithsonian scientists are supporting culturally and ecologically significant species reintroductions. Just as importantly, you will also see how our scientists are empowering the next generation of conservationists through a partnership with the Tribal College, ensuring that the work continues. And I'm sure you all know how challenging it can be to convey the community trust building and capacity building that is integral to conservation work. This is just one of the strengths of conservation storytelling. The Return of Nóouhàh-Toka'na is more than just a beautiful film, as you'll see, but it's also a gateway to conservation. To date, more than 25,000 people have watched it in theaters across the nation. That's 25,000 people connected with Smithsonian science. And I am pleased to say that while the success of this film is not a one-off, even though it is very, very cute and fuzzy animals that are involved, we can tell stories without them too. We've seen these sort of results with our other films, such as Spawning Hope, which features our remarkable coral cryopreservation work, Café y Aves, which shows viewers that they can make a difference in the survival of migratory birds through their everyday cup of coffee, and Grassroots, which highlights the Virginia Working Landscapes program, whose scientists create conservation champions out of farmers right here in our backyard. All of these films connect viewers to science and conservation while inspiring hope for the future. I invite you to spend the next 15 minutes enjoying the film, appreciating the science, and reflecting on the empathy-building bridge of conservation storytelling.
This morning we're out here searching for the swift fox. It's a newly started reintroduction here on the res. We try to find where its den is at and see if it has any babies. Yeah, pretty decent little buck there. See him? Right here. See this long-billed curlew? There's a variety of animals out here and it's pretty cool to see and be able to witness them. We've been driving around for about a week and a half and we have no luck yet. No luck yet. Is that a fox? Rock, 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 rock. Urkara. I spy a white rock. We're setting up a camera, a game cam, out here on the outside of this prairie dog town in hopes we see a swift fox. He's setting out like a lure. Pretty sure it's like a skunk pheromone. Set it about 3 feet in front of our camera and hopefully get a shot of the swift fox. Oh, I smell it from here. I can't. No, that's the worst part. We've been searching for the past 2 weeks without any luck. Haven't even seen signs of one. Nada.
Those rolling hills are beautiful. The smells are different, and there's a quietness that you don't see other places. I am a mother, a rancher, a great cook, and I practice traditions of the Ani tribe. The land is the most important to us. Our customs, our language, our history, they all go hand in hand. In 1905, our tribe was down to 300 people. We were part of the vanishing Indians. The victory isn't that we won a big war. The victory is we survived and we're still here. That's our victory. All the animals that were indigenous to this area are important to us. Nóouhàh-Toka'na. I think they're beautiful. They are spectacular.
Swift fox are smaller than a house cat. They have these long tails with a black tip. They also eat very small food items like insects, crickets, grasshoppers, or really small rodents. Swift foxes used to occur across the Great Plains, but in the midst of the 19th century, they were eliminated to almost 10% of their range. Today, thanks to conservation efforts, they occupy more than 40% of their historic range, but unfortunately, that range is still fragmented. So what we're trying to do is connect those fragments. We need foxes that have different adaptations, exchanging genes with other foxes to make a more robust population.
These animals that have been missing, there is an imbalance because they're not there.
Of course, this is a good place for them to come because we might not see them all the time. There's a lot of places to go on the reservation, a lot of land to travel.
We're going to be reintroducing about 30 to 40 foxes a year for the next 5 years, and we're going to source them from areas where they have healthy populations. Today officially marks the start of field work. We're going to meet up with Dana Nelson, who's very familiar with the area, and she'll help us pinpoint the best locations to trap. It's a beautiful day, beautiful weather. It's going to be fun. Okay, we got one. We've been trapping in Wyoming for the past 2 weeks. We caught 27 individuals. Each fox that we translocate to Fort Belknap receives a GPS collar that helps us monitor them. We want to know who is surviving, where are they going, and are they able to establish a home range. When we bring the foxes up to Fort Belknap, we don't just release them. We put them in what we call soft release pens. That is a pen that is above an empty prairie dog burrow, so the foxes have a place to hide. We feed them for up to 5 days. Here they are. Where's your girl? Where's the female? Yeah, good job. This guy is an adult male and there's a juvenile female in here. Oh, I see her. You're good. Don't want anything to happen to them while we're moving them to a new habitat. So coming out here this morning and seeing that all the foxes are calm, they're drinking, they're eating, kind of hanging out by their new dens, that's really reassuring. Sometimes the foxes will dig their way out, which is great, but if they don't, we will release them by day 5. Today is a big day, the day that we release the foxes onto Fort Belknap for the first time. We're gathering with the community to celebrate the return of swift foxes.
I'm just really proud here today. Nóouhàh is back to bring balance here in Fort Belknap. It's good things like this that brings hope. You think about when the swift fox used to run with the buffalo and the prairie dogs and the coyotes out here and the birds. It's just going to bring balance back to this land like how it should be.
We have something to celebrate. Life, another reintroduction, a part of the puzzle being put back together. Some of you younger people, as you get older, you'll realize how important this is to us. We've been blessed. We've had a lot of different things come back here. Animals, ceremonies, holy beings. It seems like Fort Belknap has a lot of friends. And that's a great thing, something that we need to foster. For saying thank you for this.
The way I view it, they're a part of us.
Opening those pens and finally letting them go free, that is it. That was the moment that I was waiting for.
These little foxes, my people bled here for no other crime than just being ended. Why did these little foxes disappear out of the area? That's how we're related. To me, they're no different than my grandkids. I want to see my grandkids succeed. These ones, I want to see them succeed. I want good things for them. I want them to be animal happy, whatever that is. Maybe that's a full belly. Maybe that's not having somebody shoot at you. I want to see them happy.
Each fox, you remember that they have like a GPS collar.
All of the 87 have GPS collars?
All of them have GPS collars. We want to know where they're selecting to stay and how long do they survive. All of these dots, these are the foxes, and they're moving.
Wow.
And they're moving. Look at that. They're getting all the way down to Lewistown. So we have
From
some,
here
yeah,
that have left the reservation?
Yes.
Isn't that something?
just a few cross the river to the south, and some cross the Milk River to the north. We
Yeah.
have a den at Lake 17 now that has 6 puppies. So that's what we're going to be searching
Okay.
for today.
Okay.
And we're going to wait for them to come up so you can actually see those cuties. So yeah, so we'll go search for them. We're just going to sit here quietly and wait for them to come out.
I seen them. And it's really great to see something that you haven't seen for a long time. Is that a sign, you know, that things are coming full circle, that we're going to see things we haven't seen before, or coming back to the way they were? Makes you feel good about where you live and who you are. It's really something, saying something for our small community. I'm proud to be A'ani today.
These tribes have been champions in reintroducing prairie species back to their homelands. They reintroduced bison in the 1970s, black-footed ferrets in the 90s, and now swift foxes. And it has been a joy working with them developing this project. My favorite part is working with Îyârhe Nakoda students. At the end of the day, this is their home, and we bring in students as interns to participate in this reintroduction. And slowly, we're transferring a lot of those responsibilities to those students.
Being able to witness animals being reintroduced onto the landscape like the swift fox is a pretty special experience. Being able to have people that trust in me at the college to do this, it's a pretty honorable thing, I think. We have still yet to see one in this season, 2023. I feel like we'll see one because it's pretty cool out. It's only 60 degrees. They're so tiny, you can just drive right past one, so you want to look for any kind of movement you can. Should go check that camera? "3,000 photos of grass moving." We're kind of by where a GPS collar went off on one of our swift foxes. So we're trying to see if we can see it down out here on the prairie dog town. What's that way out there? Is that a fox? Oh yeah, yeah. When I'm older, I'm hoping to be able to just drive down the road and see a swift fox just running across the road. I'm hoping they get stable enough to where they can just handle it themselves and we won't have to reintroduce anymore. They can just breed and keep going.
They'll have stories about the swift fox now. I can tell my grandkids about, I remember when the swift fox was released. I was there, but I can tell them, what it meant to us as Îyârhe and Nakota people. This story will be passed down. This one right here.
One of the signs of success of this reintroduction is the movement of the foxes. So foxes look for other foxes to mate with. Most of the foxes stayed very close to Fort Belknap, and that is a wonderful sign, meaning that they have what they need on the landscape. And number one thing is mates.
Sometimes some things leave and you always hope for them to come back. And that's part of the swift foxes. They came back too, like we did and like the bison did.
Now they're here, they're reproducing in a place that they were gone for decades. I can't explain that feeling because we did this as a team. We brought them back.
Tonight, when I go to sleep, I know there's a piece of the puzzle that's here now, and it's up to us to figure out what's going to happen, how we're going to go about it, and what we have to learn. And that's something to look forward to.
So we're happy to take questions. If folks don't have any, I always ask questions, so I have plenty. All right. Brooke. Yes. Ellie. I'm going to sit over here. Yeah. So I'm not. Good. You got some static. Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to look at you from afar. Thank you. So Brooke, at what point does storytelling and communications come into a conservation project, or should it come in?
That's a great question. Personally, I like it when we think about communication or storytelling efforts right at the beginning, especially in terms of visual. communication because it's much easier to tell a story when someone is there to photograph it or film it. And I think it's really important to what sets conservation storytelling apart from nature photography or journalism media is that impact-driven storytelling, the conservation part. Like, we are the Conservation Biology Institute, not just a research. We are really focused on making those gains in changing behavior, saving species, things like that. And so your storytelling can reflect that as well. So that can include, thinking about very early on, what is our goal with this research? What is our goal with these communication pieces? And how can I tell a story that's going to align with our stakeholders' values? So that can be through the values of the people you're highlighting, the story of the animal, things like that. But I'm always an advocate for starting to talk about it as soon as possible.
The stories English, have they also started a tradition of telling this story in their own language?
That is a great question. I am not 100% sure. However, I do know that a lot of the screenings have been happening in tribal settings. So I believe actually the first screening of the film was done on the reservation. And our Great Plains team is here, but not the folks who are involved in this particular project. But yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's a huge component of what one of our major partners on Unicode College does with students is teaching and reinvigorating them. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. Are there other? I also was very touched by the idea of culture, this was a community. Boston. Here at life. There. Are there other places that have that? Such a town.
Yes, and I'm actually going to pick on Fernanda Abra, who is here, because she has worked extensively with a tribe in the Amazon to create canopy bridges, so preventing animals from getting hit by cars, specifically arboreal animals. And that project, again, she had a ton of input and guidance from the Indigenous community. And I think she's done a phenomenal job in putting those Indigenous voices at the forefront in her work. So I'm actually a journalist by trade. So I went to school for journalism. I spent a lot of time trying to get into television, worked in TV for a little while and actually started doing stories on SCBI and totally fell in love with it. So like so many people have said, it's a dream job, right? And it really was. When I left news, I was like, this is where I want to work, but they're not hiring. But that background for me is why I lean so much into working with external partners and external storytellers, as well as telling our stories internally. But that was a sort of the basis for me, but that's not everybody's background. And Brooke has a very different background, actually, which is great.
Yes, I am in a unique position on campus that I was an English major, and I think I might be the only one. I was really interested in the natural world and in conservation, but I was not very good at science, unlike probably everyone else in this room. And in college, I was studying English because I just loved stories and I loved reading. And I took a class that basically covered climate fiction. And it was the first time that I saw that how people can use stories, fiction or nonfiction, to engage people, to drive empathy, and to create change, even if they themselves are not creating the science and creating the data. And I also was getting really into photography and just saw the power of visual storytelling. So I became a freelance photojournalist and conservation photographer and filmmaker. And I did that for like a number of years, and got a grant with National Geographic to photograph lawn culture in the area, and connected with Virginia Working Landscapes to photograph some of their work for 2 years. And then they finally hired me to just stay around because I wouldn't leave them alone.
It's a theme. Just keep asking, and they eventually say yes. Yeah. Sally?
Yeah, Sally, I think you're very good at describing, as someone who's filmed you. I mean, my go-to question, and I think I've asked you this when I'm doing an interview or trying to get someone to really break something down to a level that I can understand, which is different than a level that you all can understand, is like, if I'm your grandma or someone at a bar and I'm like, what are you working on? And you can explain it to me in that way. And then, you know, from there, you can start adding more complexity, but really explaining something with as little technical language as possible can really be helpful. Or personally, again, not to keep coming back to this, but I think creating a story around something is also a really powerful way to do it. You know, it helps helps people retain more information than just spewing facts. It connects people to a character, be it human, animal, statistics, whatever. And it just creates, it allows for more nuance in that storytelling. So you don't necessarily have to be as simplistic as explaining something to your grandparents.
Yeah, I would say too, I think character-driven stories are really useful, right? I think part of the reason that this film is so impactful is because you're hearing from the Indigenous voices who this is their experience, this is their life. So if you can find either that person or that animal, you know, whether it's mega charismatic fauna or you know, the underdog, right? There's always an option. And then the other thing, and this might be a little controversial in a room full of scientists, but coming from a television background, we were always instructed to write at about a 3rd to 5th grade reading level. And that is because if you are listening to the radio or you are watching TV news, you might be also doing something else. You might be on your phone, you might be cooking dinner, you might be driving, and I hope you're paying attention to the road. So being able to break down complicated science into accessible media is really important, especially when we're talking about an American public with, you know, between a 5th grade and 8th grade reading level. American literacy is a whole other passion project of mine. So, you know, just be able to break it down and look for characters, because ultimately those characters are going to keep people hanging on so you can get to the more complicated things. Yeah. I'm giving you this. Oh, all right.
There are some practical things that you can do as a group. So you are part of the gosh darn giant Smithsonian institution, which does an amazing job at training bajillions of volunteers in interpretive skills. And they had some very robust resources that we pillaged, and we used to run for staff interpretive training for keeper staff. Like in DC, keepers were tasked with communicating with the public on occasion, but out here there wasn't that. And suddenly they had this kind of tacit mandate that we were going to do a better job reaching out to her. So there are resources, practical resources on how to use object, how to use words. I mean, I always think, you know, lead with your heart. People will follow, and that requires zero training. But there are some practical things that can be done that are drawing on things that are already being done. Like find out who's training air and space volunteers. I don't know. I mean, there's also a zoo probably has interpret training. So, okay.
And I am giving license to anyone in this room to come bother me and Brooke at the Reed Center dedication later, because we both work in that office. So you are absolutely welcome to come and talk to us. More than you think, Brooke.
Okay, I will use an example from my freelance life. It's a little more complicated here because like I'm on salary, so are you counting that? So when I was a freelancer, I worked with the Michael J. Fox Foundation to do a film about Parkinson's, and I focused on my grandfather. And we were a very small crew because, you know, he was talking about very sensitive health things, and we didn't want to bring too much in. Anyways, it was a 7-minute documentary film, and we had considered a very low budget, and it was $13,000. So it gets really expensive really quickly. And in terms of who funds that, I mean, again, at an institution like Smithsonian, the partnerships and funding can look very different. As a freelancer, I was applying for a lot of grants, so that's how I got connected with National Geographic to start. I was working with groups like the Michael J. Fox Foundation and nonprofits that had similar missions or goals to the films I was trying to make. I feel like those are the big ways that, or honestly, just self-funding until someone liked it enough.
I do think that one of the benefits of being at the Smithsonian is that, you know, you can have someone on staff doing this. So we are incredibly lucky to have a filmmaker on staff. Not every unit has that. So, you know, being able to invest in storytelling is incredibly important.
And another plug for talking about it early, everyone, budding scientists. Talk about communications early. You can include it in your grant items. Great.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone.